Hello everyone, my name is Samia Achraf. I'm a Flutter GDE and a Women Tech Makers ambassador and also a Flutter enthusiast. So in today's session, I will be talking about what's new in Flutter 3.7 and all of the updates that were released during Flutter 3.7 update. So let's discuss it together. So let's start with the first update, which is the Material 3 updates. So as we all know, Material is Google's open source design system that we use to design and build applications. So the widgets that we use in our application are coming from the Material. Now Material 3 is the most upgraded version of Material. And in order to use the Material 3 widgets, we will be using a parameter called useMaterial3 in the theme data. This theme data is what we use inside the Material app. Just set useMaterial3 to true, and then you can start using the Material3 widgets. Now, Material3 widgets will have all of the Material2 widgets, but most of it is going to be enhanced because it's an upgraded version. Color scheme seed, it generates a color scheme for your application. You can use the one from Flutter. You can use a theme builder, or you can provide your own, like color scheme seed, colors of green. So we can do that both. And following are the widgets that were migrated. So all of these widgets, you're going to find it in Material 3 and you can use it in Flutter 3.7. Some of them here are enhanced, but yeah, most of them are going to remain the same. Now, if you want to experience how these widgets work, then there is a website which I'll be sharing with you in the chat box. You can visit that website, and it is more like an interactive link where you can test what different widgets look like. Like, for example, how does the elevated button look like? And then how does icon button look? So most of these widgets are new. And if you want to experience, or if you want to see how it works and how they look like mostly, then you can visit this website and try it on your own. So there are some action buttons. We have some of the common buttons and also some floating action buttons, some navigation buttons, and even the tabs. So selection buttons as well. So if you want to see how it works, you can visit this website and see it for yourself. It's going to have all of the Material 3 widgets. Next, the next update is the menu bars. Now, so most of the updates are actually related with the desktop platforms because most of them are built for that. So one of them I can say is the menu bar. You can use it on any platforms, but you must have come across this when you're using Windows. There is a tab bar that sits to the top of the screen. And then when you click on it, you will see a list of sub items, sub menu items. So this is what is a menu bar. Now this exact thing, we can have it in Flutter as well. So when you click on one of the menu items, you will have a cascading list of child menus. And how does it happen? How does it work? It uses the platform's native APIs to construct this menu bar, which means it's going to be platform specific, the design mostly. So let us look at how the menu bar looks at the Mac in the Mac OS. Now Mac OS is going to have its own native API. So when you click on the text button, which is next to the Apple icon there, that is going to display the list of menu items. And these menu items is what you will be defining in the code. Like, for example, there is about, there is show message, and messages, quit my sample. So, my sample here is the name of the project. So, this is the menu item, and you will be using platform menu bar. So, this is the widget through using which you can render the menu bar in the Mac OS platform. This is specifically just for Mac OS. And platform menu bar is going to take menus parameter, where menus parameter is a list of platform menu items. There is going to be different platform menus, like one of it is about, one of it is show message. So just like that, we'll be having list of platform menu items. So that was for Mac OS. This is very simple to implement. The next one is going to be for all the other platforms. The widget is going to be menu bar. So for Mac OS, it is different. It is platform menu bar. And for other platforms, it's going to be just menu bar widget. So menu bar widget is going to consist of children widgets, where each children widget is a sub menu button. So this entire bar here is the menu bar, and file, view, and all of the options, all of the children are sub menu buttons. So one sub menu button here is file. That sub menu button is going to consist of menu item button. And this menu item button is about and save, quit. All of those are menu item buttons. Sub menu button is file and view. So we can have as many sub menu buttons, either one or multiple. So that's how we can design the menu bars. I think this is an extremely helpful update, especially for desktop applications, because it makes it more easier to have menu bars, makes the app more interactive. So next we have the Impeller. Now you must have heard of Impeller. So Impeller is a new rendering machine, and I'm sure you've heard of the app Wondrous. If not, you can download the Wondrous app from App Store or Play Store. So Impeller was designed to improve the app performance. Now, especially on Apple devices, there is a jank issue that is caused because of the shader compilations and even the scrolling. So, to overcome this, Impeller was designed. It's a rendering machine which whose main goal was to improve the overall app experience, improve the scrolling experience, and basically everything. And this was previously available in the master channel. If you haven't previewed it, you can now, it is now available to preview in stable channel as well. And right now it is only supported on iOS, but future releases will be there for Android as well. So if you haven't checked out the Wondrous app, I highly recommend you download it and check it. It's beautifully built, and the performance is just great, and even the scrolling, it's very smooth. Give that a try and you will know how powerful Impeller is. The next one is next update that we'll be discussing is iOS release validation. Now, previously, whenever we used to build the iOS, and it didn't used to tell us like what was missing. So now the whenever we build the iOS file, whenever we build the iOS app, it is going to display a checklist of items that needs to be corrected before we submit the app. So I think this is very helpful if you're frequently developing iOS apps, because it acts like a reminder to tell you that the app icon is using the incorrect size. So you can read this and then go ahead and change the app icon. So a very helpful one again. So the next one that we have is custom context menus. This one is again most useful for the desktop applications, or mainly anything like, so this is basically like whenever you're selecting a portion of the text, let's say in this case, I'm selecting the entire email. When I select this email, it's going to show me an option if I want to send the email. So it it becomes a lot simpler, right? So you just select the entire email text, and then an option of send email pops up. And when I click on the send email, you can call an action to send the email. So this is again an extremely useful widget. And it's mostly used when you use it with the text field widget. I'm using here with the text field widget. So once the once the text is entered in the text field, you can check if that text entered is of the format email. You can apply the regex and check that. And if it is of the format email, then you can add another um, option to that list, the context menu list. So right now it is just cut, copy, and paste. So when I select the entire um, email there, then it's going to show me a send email option as well. And how do we do it? So there is going to be an context menu builder. So let us take a look at the code. Now, this context menu builder, we are going to say that first of all, we are going to take the selected text. We are going to perform a regex operation on it and check if if it is of the type email. Then if it is of the type email, then we are going to add it into the button items list. What is a button items list? It is cut, copy, and paste that you see there earlier. So in the cut, copy, paste, I'm going to add a send email option as well. You can add as many options as you want. So then I'm going to have the send email option as well. So using the context menu builder, you can do this. So in order to get the default menu items, which is cut, copy, paste, we can say editable text state dot context menu button items, which means whenever I select any text, return the um, context menu buttons for it. So by default, you will always see a cut, copy, paste, and you can add a send email if the selected text was of the type email, was of the format email. So basically, context menu builder is it builds the selection toolbar. It builds the selection toolbar. So if the context menu builder was never provided, then you will only see the default menu, which is cut, copy, paste. So custom context menu can be again a helpful one, especially if you're using desktop or web apps. It becomes a lot easier to perform actions on selected text. So yeah, so basically the one that we saw earlier was for text. What happens when you select a portion of the text? Now we will see what happens when you select an image or when you right click on an image. Now, earlier we didn't really have many options on right click of an image. But now when you right click on any image, then what happens is it's going to give you an option. And that option, again, you will use context menu builder. So here, when I click on the when I right click the image, it's going to ask me if I want to save the image. You can add any option. Again, you can make it copy or you can do the paste. So again, the same thing in button items. I'm only going to keep one item here, which is the button save. And when you click on save, you can have your own function. So obviously, if it is send email, the on pressed is going to be different. If it is save, then you're going to write code for saving the image in your system. And if it is for copy, if it is for paste, it's going to be entirely different. So this is completely dynamic. You can change it as per your use case. So context menus are extremely easy again to use because you just have to mention what menu button item you want and how many menu button items you want. It can be as many as you want. So if you want again one more um, option, that is copy and paste, then you can have another context menu button item. So that way you can add more, and it is completely customizable. So some some other updates were the addition of CupertinoListSection and the CupertinoListTile widgets. So these two widgets, um, so the Cupertino now will be having two additional widgets, which is the list section and the list style widgets. So list section here, it is it almost not almost it basically mimics the iOS forms or iOS lists that we have. We can now have the same in Flutter, so which means that you can almost copy the UI of a Flutter of a iOS app into Flutter now. So Cupertino list section is the one where you can build a list, and when you click on an item, it is going to have its own call to action. So this was an additional widget that was added. Now, Cupertino list section is going to take a header, and header is basically um, the like a topic, like a heading, and then children here are Cupertino list tiles. So individual list tiles are going to be the children in Cupertino list section. So list tile, Cupertino list tile is again a new widget. So Cupertino list tile is again from the iOS UI, and it is the same as we have the list tile in the material. So in the list style that we've been using is now we can mimic the iOS list style, which is the Cupertino list style. Basically a scrollable list of widgets. And you can also use them in the list view. So Cupertino list style is going to have a couple of parameters, which is title, leading, trailing, and on tap, almost similar to the list style of material. So again, you can, if the UI calls for an iOS-like UI, then you can use Cupertino list style and Cupertino list sections. So some of the scrolling improvements. So scrolling has always been a topic in Flutter because not the very smoothest scrolling. So scrolling has now been improved in the Flutter 3.7, and especially for trackpad interactions, it has been improved as well because trackpad interactions were not very smooth. So that is a major change there. And also when you're handling text selection widgets, so like the selectable text widget, so that has been improved as well. Now when you try to select a portion of text with your mouse, it it becomes improved. The scrolling there becomes much more improved and doesn't become laggy anymore. And also the Mac OS apps, Mac because of the desktop platform support, the scrolling had to be improved. because the desktop apps are basically very fast and they don't have any scrolling issues. So Flutter had to work on the scrolling of it to match with the desktop apps. So you will now experience higher fidelity, meaning you will the Mac OS apps will now work much better in terms of scrolling physics. The animated grid and sliver animated grid widgets. Now, when you add and remove an item from them, you can now experience, you can now add some animations to it when you remove and add an item from animated grid and sliver animated grid. And again, in the list view widget, earlier the item builder used to return null when the end of the list was reached. Now this can be prevented when we use a nullable indexed widget builder, which will ensure that the program will not run into error when the end of the list is reached and that null is not returned, because now it becomes nullable indexed widget builder. The next update was internationalization tools and docs. So one of the most common issue was that the errors were never descriptive. Now the errors are much more descriptive and even nested to ensure the user that the user understands what exactly the error is and that they can resolve it better. So the Gen 110N was rewritten to support these. The next is the global selection improvements. Now, we all know that selectable text is a kind of widget where the text becomes selectable, meaning you can double click on the mouse or just double click on a word and that word gets selected, and then you can copy that word. So now we can use the selection area widget, which will ensure global selections. And we can even extend the selected widget by using the keyboard shortcut Shift Right. So this is a very common text copying technique which was there previously in every platform. Now you can have it in your Flutter apps as well. So just double click on a word and then you can shift right to extend the selected text, and then it goes on copying the text which is present at the right. So this is again a major update because this was there in most of the platforms and now it is available in Flutter as well. So all you have to do is use the selection area widget, and that is going to have a child widget selectable text, and all of this text is going to go inside the selectable text. So a few more updates to go. The next one we have here is the text magnifier. Again, this is already available in Android and iOS apps. And now you can even have it in your Flutter apps. So basically what happens is whenever you double click on or whenever you select a word, let's say from a text field, you're selecting a word. When you select this word and you try to extend the selection, the text, there will be a magnifying glass, and in that magnifying glass you can see the text. So this was already there for iOS and Android, and it's now you can add it in your Flutter apps as well. So how will you add it? We are going to be using a widget called raw magnifier. So let's see how we can add it in a text field first, because the the image that the GIF here is for a text field. So let's see the code for this. Now, text field is going to have a magnifier configuration. Now, text magnifier configuration is the object using which we can add the text magnifier. Now, if there is no text magnifier, if there is no magnifier configuration object, then it is going to be null and no magnifying glass is going to be available. So if you want it to be on, if you want to use it just like that, you can use a raw magnifier. So this is how the um, magnifier works, a raw magnifier. And then you say, you mention the scale, the focal point, and even the decoration. So decoration is the decoration of the magnifying glass. If I want it to be a rectangle, it's going to be rectangle. Otherwise, you can also specify other shape, and also the size of the magnifier, the height and the width. So yeah, if the magnifier configuration is null, there will be no magnifier. Otherwise, it's going to take up the object that was defined. So the next update is the iOS platform view backdrop filter. Now you can use the blur objects, Flutter objects in Flutter widgets in native iOS. So the views can now be blurred when it is rendered um, underneath a blurred Flutter widget. So this is a new addition to the native iOS. And also the UI kit view can be wrapped inside a backdrop filter. So this is for some UI updates that the iOS, native iOS will now, you can use it on iOS devices. Also in terms of memory management, there were some improvements on the memory management. Like, for example, one of them was reducing the jank that happens because of garbage collection pauses, and also reducing the CPU utilization, and yeah, allocation of velocity and uh, background GC threads. So basically, the memory management has been improved. The next one is the font asset hot reload. So previously, when you add images to the pubspec.yaml, you can hot reload and it works well. But if you add fonts to the pubspec.yaml, then that required rebuilding of the app. So now you can make the changes in the font manifest, or you can even add additional fonts, and you don't have to rebuild the app. You can just hot reload the app and then it works fine. So the need to rebuild the app is gone now. You can just hot reload and it works all well. And those were most of the updates for I have included here the updates which are more interactive, but there are more updates which you can get it from the official Flutter channel. But yeah, that's all for today. So does anyone have here any questions? If there is any update that you want an elaborative explanation, or any update that you haven't understood or have doubts, you can ask me now. Any updates that you want me to explain again, or you have any doubts? All right. So if we don't have any doubts, then thank you for joining in. I hope you've understood some of it, if not all of it, and definitely do try it on your own. All of the updates are extremely helpful, and definitely you're going to use them at some point. So just read through them. And if you ever have any doubt, you can always reach out to me. My socials are shared in the chat. So, yeah, thank you.